I want to ask you about going into a tournament. You know, you guys, a big part of y'all's success seems like that y'all play so hard on every possession. How hard do you think it'll be, or will it be, to be able to maintain that for multiple days, day after day?
Yeah, we've only had one rep of trying that, obviously in Orlando, and I don't think we were playing hard then, and we had no success with it. And so this is only the second tournament we've played in. So since I saw you guys the last time, as a staff, we've tried to figure out, because I agree with what you said, what is the best way to handle the preparation leading up to the game. So we'll play Thursday night at 6. What do we need to do today, tomorrow, Wednesday? We have to attend the, whatever they call it, the media practice on Wednesday afternoon. And so I think a little bit of the answer, Olin, is how do we handle things between now and then? And then the next thing is if we're fortunate enough to play again, what do we do from the end of the game prior to the tip-off of the next game? And I don't know in hindsight that much of anything we did in Orlando is translatable to now, because so much has changed. We've evolved so much. So I don't know that there's anything to learn from Orlando other than we don't need to do any of that. And so how we're trying to manage today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and even Thursday day, it's a little different. I think smarter coaches may say different. If you're playing a home game at 6 o'clock at night, it's kind of normal day. You're going to have shoot around, you're going to have team meal, they're going to go back to their apartments. There's kind of a natural flow to it. 6 o'clock, when you're spending the day, all day at the hotel, and you can't go to the gym that you're going to play in because it's a tournament, how do you want to manage that? And so I think even a little bit on Thursday day, how we handle their time is important.
How different is tournament play? It seems like it's more possession by possession style game.
Yeah, I hope that's true. Relative to us, that's every possession's been a tournament then, because we're so possession driven / based. Never have played in the SEC tournament. I know some of the returning guys have done that. Always feel like it's kind of new life, new energy, new vibe. Everybody's playing for something different. That's the case in the regular season, but to some degree in the postseason, everybody's kind of playing for the same thing, and I think that changes the emotion of it all.
I know you've mentioned in the past that your defense is based on football concepts. Where did the inspiration come for kind of developing that defense? Kind of how did that formulate?
Well, I think for me, just because most of my friends are football coaches. I don't have many friends in the basketball world and never have, and I don't mean that in the wrong way. And I think football coaches are better coaches, in my opinion, than basketball coaches. They have to lead more people. They have a larger staff. There's more intricacies to what they're coaching. There's always a pause after every play. So the value of the possession is increased. So I've spent an inordinate amount of my time as an adult around a lot of really good football coaches, NFL coaches, college coaches, and cover two, that's what we call our defense. That's from Coach Kiffin, not Lane Kiffin, his dad, Monty. I think Coach Kiffin turned 80 last week. When he worked for Coach Gruden, both of those guys I have great relationships with. That was the Tampa 2, and that's where cover 2 came from, and the principle of we're covering two guys at once. And so I don't necessarily know that there was a person other than I've just spent a lot of time around football guys.
You guys are getting ready to play Missouri for the third time, Coach. What's the challenge of playing a team 3 times, and why is it so hard to beat the same team 3 times in a season?
I don't think that We played two different Missouri teams. They haven't had their full roster all year long, and so up until the last couple of weeks. So when we played at Missouri, Tillman didn't play, but both Smith guards did. When we played here, one Smith played, Tillman tried to play, and Pinson was like a different player. And it seems like in the last couple of weeks they finally have their roster the way I think that coach probably anticipated the team he was going to have. And so I think we'll play a third different team, a team with many more weapons than we've played in the first two games. Makes the value of the possession maybe a little bit more because there's not any secrets when you've played a mirror opponent. But I don't think that we have played the best Missouri team that they have. I think that'll be on Thursday.
So what challenges is this Missouri team gonna present?
They're distinctly better than we are. That would be the first challenge. I think they've been able to hang around because that's who coach is and that's how he coaches them. I think they're built on the right things, particularly defensively. But he just hasn't had all of his guys all at the same time. There's always been a variable or two that he's had to deal with. And I think if you study how their SEC regular season started, it was like a suicide watch. And then to deal with all of the injuries that he's had to deal with throughout the season. So I think they're just now kind of catching their groove. So they're a completely different team than the team that the last time we played them here.
Buzz, I know you're not campaigning for it, but what would it mean to you or especially your team, what would it say about the guys too on your team if you were able to win SEC Coach of the Year?
Oh, I don't know. I've never won one. I don't anticipate whenever that happens that I'll win this year. I don't participate in that sort of thing. Maybe I should. It's kind of some of the same conversations we've had on that sort of subject. I'm just kind of an outlier relative to that. I think everybody probably has a different lens on who should be Coach of the Year, and everybody's entitled to that. And so I haven't spent any time thinking of that.
Buzz, how much better has y'all's bench gotten, and how much has it been a factor in some of the success of late?
I'll answer it the way you want me to answer it, but
Truthful.
do you know that I don't mean it in a condescending way. We have a camera that videos our bench and has my entire career because that's so important to me relative to their body language and who they are as teammates, the involvement of all of the suits over there on the bench. Because during a game, I'm just locked in on the kids on the court. I hired Jerry Wainwright. I don't know if you know who that is. He turned 74 2 weeks ago. He's still a Division I coach. He was one of my heroes growing up, still is one of my heroes. I hired him as director of operations in what was my start of my 5th year at Marquette. So I'd been to the office, he's an old guy, and so he's up real early. And so it was always just me and him in the office early every morning. And he'd been there a couple of weeks, and he came in the office and he said, Coach, is there anything you want me to do? And I go, no, sir, thanks for asking. And I went back to whatever I was doing, and I glanced back up like a minute later. I go, Coach, what's wrong? He goes, well, you haven't told me to do anything since I've been here. And I go, no, sir, everything's fine. You don't have to do anything. Just do whatever you want to do. You've been doing this longer than I've been alive, so whatever you think you need to do that. He goes, well, you haven't told me anything. I go, I'm never going to tell you anything. I ain't going to tell anybody around here what to do. If they can't figure out what to do, then I'm going to fire them. So you figure out what to do. So he came back like 2 weeks later. He had watched all 18 conference games in the Big East and had like a notebook on every single one. And he's bringing them all the notebooks in. He goes, Coach, this is what I've been doing. I go, what is all that? He goes, I watched every game. And so here's all my notes. I go, well, what do they say? He goes, well, do you want to read them? I go, no, just tell it to me. He said, well, the thing I was mesmerized by is that every time you subbed a player out, you never spoke to him. I go, Coach, I am not gifted enough to talk to a guy who's not in the game and also pay attention to what's going on during the game. I don't have time to talk to him. So from that moment, I started taping the bench to see what was happening. And the evolution of our bench mirrors the evolution of what's happened on the floor. I mean, they're always getting on me about getting out of the box. Our whole bench is out of the box. It's been unbelievable, the spirit in which those guys. Are you talking about the guys scoring? Is that what you're
Well, among other things, I mean, what?
What I just said is more important than what you were asking.
Coach, going back to the football reference, we always hear making a ball game is a big deal because they get so many extra practices.
Yeah.
What would it mean for your team to be in any sort of postseason tournament, and does that benefit the same way a basketball team with extra work?
Yeah, I completely understand the bowl stuff. It's kind of like some of my friends, one of them was texting me this morning, I like to go watch spring practices, when they're in and every coach has it different on how many days they can actually practice in that window, and they do it different times, and the days they're not practicing or when they have meetings. And I always like to go when they have meetings so I can sit in those rooms. But how I would answer that for this
y'all, yeah.
team is selfishly, if it's possible, and I think the odds are stacked against us. I think there's still a lot that has to be accomplished. I would just like to be able to play in a tournament you don't have to pay for. We're not going to play in one we have to pay for. It's just the opportunity to be around those guys, another practice or 4 or a game, because the camaraderie and the chemistry and the symmetry of what's going on is really special. And so selfishly, I kind of hope that it can last a little longer just so we can be around together.
Nebo said last week he didn't know what he was going to do when basketball was over, so
Yeah,
he
he
wanted
doesn't
to
know.
continue.
Yeah, that's I have about the same level of wisdom as Nebo. He probably has a little bit more because of who his mom is. But yeah, like when you do this every day and it's a big part of what you do, you don't want it to end because you know what to do tomorrow if it's still going on. So I think there's truth in that.
Would you say that your on-court identity is defense? And what that can bring?
I don't know. We were top 10 last year in offense in all of the categories that matter. Offensive efficiency, all the numbers. We were not top 10 in defense. I think we were maybe top 20. I think on this year's team, Travis, I think that it's what gave us our best chance. And I don't say this with ego involved. Our defense has a lot of complexities to it. And it takes an inordinate amount of reps to understand those different layers. And you could almost chart the numbers only defensively over the 30 games. And you can see from those numbers the understanding and the ability to execute that understanding with our team. Like, we may have spent, he's asking about the bench. People have asked about, well, you're making shots now. I would say since Martin Luther King Day, I would say that maybe 10% of our practice itineraries have been offense. It's just been nothing but defense in what we've done, because I think it's what gave us a chance. Is it my identity? I don't know. I think defense is somewhat linear, and I think I'm a linear thinker, so maybe some of my explanations come across that way. But I do think that no matter what sport that you play, when your defense can control the game, then your team has arrived. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win the national championship. It's kind of like when the Seahawks played the Patriots, whatever Super Bowl that was, 47 plays, and 42 of the 47 plays, they gave Tom Brady the same coverage every time. Hey, man, you can throw the check down right there. That's the one you can throw. But they beat the Patriots because they gave up nothing long. They didn't get beat off the run. The only thing they would give him is just a check down over and over and over. So you're giving maybe the best quarterback of all time the same look over and over and over, but your defense is good enough to execute that. And that's why they won the Super Bowl. And I think with this year's team, that's what gave us a chance was, can we get our defense good enough that it will give us a chance in a game?
The way you guys ended the season, especially the way you're playing defense now, what are the expectations, moving forward into this tournament?
Oh, just try real hard. Nothing has changed relative to the expectations or the standards or whatever the objectives, whatever word you would want to use. They were the same when we weren't any good. So nothing has changed relative to that.